Welcome to Awesome Movie Year, the podcast where we take a look back at an awesome year for movies, which is every year. I'm Josh Bell, film critic and writer, and I'm joined by my co-host.
I'm Jason Harris, filmmaker, comedian, and Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick in the draft.
Oh, yeah. So we are doing something here on Awesome Movie Year that we have never done before. And we are here at the beginning of our 20th season. And as we did for our 10th season, we decided, since this was a significant number, that we are going to do kind of a retrospective season. We are going to pick movies from various different years that we have covered in previous seasons and take some picks of movies that we did not cover that we wanted to talk about. And in order to put that lineup together, we decided, since there are so many years, so many possibilities, we are going to conduct a movie draft, which is a sports thingy that Jason knows about.
Right. But movie drafts are very popular now on different podcasts. There are whole podcasts dedicated simply to movie drafts, right? So the way we're running it is a little different, right? We each get 3 picks. And we've decided that we can each pick 2 movies we've seen before and 1 movie we haven't seen before.
Or I think the other way around, just at least one of each of those. So it could be 2 movies you've never seen and 1 movie that you have seen.
As long as you pick one that you've seen and one you haven't seen, you can
yes.
do whatever you want on the third one. Once a year is taken, so if Josh picks something from 2007, that year's off the board. Dave and I can't pick anything from that year. So the strategy is, do you want one more than the others, and then go from there? Obviously, Josh being a big sports fan, normal sports drafts, it just goes first pick through last pick, and then you kind of cycle through it again the same way in the next round. A lot of these movie drafts kind of work in fantasy football style, where you snake it 1, 2, 3, and then 3, 2, 1, which is a way to do it. What we're going to do is a little something different. Since there's 3 rounds and three of us, each one of us is going to get the first pick in one round. Each one of us is going to get the second pick in one round, and each one of us is going to get the third pick in one round. And we're going to give it a shot, buddy. Let's give it a shot.
How do I score a goal?
No? Who's winning the match?
Josh, I could just see you asking that question in like 4th grade, and just go to the corner.
I wasn't going to score a goal. Come on. That was never a possibility when I would play something.
We'll see what you pick. Depending on what movies you pick, you might get points for that, Josh.
All right. Sounds good. So to begin this, Dave has a literal hat with pieces of paper in it, and he is going to pick a name out of
a literal hat, not a figurative hat.
Right. No, that's what I'm saying. He's holding this hat up. It's a straw hat of some kind.
Yeah.
Dave?
Thank you to the lovely Gina Mazzoni for donating her hat.
Yeah, could have been part of our Wild Punch episode.
Yeah. She's upstairs right now wondering what the hell I'm talking about, probably.
So Dave is going to pick a name out of this hat, and that person will get the first pick.
And that person is Jason.
Uh-oh. Now, see, I get the first pick in the first round, so everything's on the board. Strategically, I could take whatever I want, but sometimes it's better to let the chips fall before you get a pick.
Yeah, strategy.
Thank you, Josh.
So, Jason, what are you picking?
Well, no, we got to see who gets the second pick, and then.
Is that a thing? Is that how this goes? Oh,
yeah,
God.
yeah.
This is gonna be a long day for us. Josh is number 2.
All right, I'm number 2.
Okay,
Exciting.
so round 1 will go Jason, Josh, Dave. Round 2 will go Josh, Dave, Jason, and then round 3 will go Dave, Jason, Josh. So that way we all have, you get a pick in each round from each one, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I trust your judgment on this, Jason, implicitly.
Yes.
All right. This is a tough one. I have first pick, Josh. I feel like I have to pick the movie that we always talk about on here, that I always say we should cover, and we haven't covered. So I guess for my first pick, I'm going to go with Steve Buscemi's lost classic from 1996, Trees Lounge, which 96 is one of the most influential movie years I think there is. And certainly for me as a teenager in the 90s, I'm going to pick Trees Lounge, Josh.
Yeah, we have talked about this so much, whether it's on episodes or off of episodes. And I feel like there are moments where we almost covered this for various purposes, maybe in that 10th season with our anniversary lineup then, and maybe in our 96 season as a bonus or something. And I know you love it. So I think that's a strong pick because you'll have some passion for talking about it.
Now, that means 96 is off the board. If I was going to pick a movie I hadn't seen from 96, I was going to pick Pusher, which I believe is Mads Mikkelsen doing some violence and drug dealing type things.
That's Nicholas Winding Refn's early work, I believe, right?
Yeah, I think you're right there, Josh. But we won't know in this season because we're covering Trees Lounge instead.
Well, you clearly knew a lot about it, so that was good choice.
But you guys, so do you want to talk about what you guys had on the board for 96?
So my pick for 96 for a movie that I have seen was the Wachowskis' Bound, which we probably mentioned when we did our episode on The Matrix. And as much as I love The Matrix, I think Bound is even better. It's their debut film, is fantastic. And I watched relatively recently to write about for an anniversary of some kind. So that would have been fun. And my pick from that year for a movie that I've not seen is a film called Mary Jane's Not a Virgin Anymore, which is not a movie that I know a whole lot about, but is one of these kind of obscure indies that seems to have been rediscovered recently. It had been aired on TCM and I think was maybe streaming on Criterion. And it just looked like an intriguing kind of lost film from that era of indie filmmaking that is exemplified also like by Trees Lounge. So I would have been curious to check that out.
And I love movies like that. I would, like I talked about on Dave's podcast on Piecing It Together. I recently watched My Life's in Turnaround, which is an Eric Schaefer 90s movie that like is lost to time. I like movies like that. So I think, I'm going to watch both those anyway.
All right.
Yeah, I just recently watched Bound and it's great. But one of these days, I'm going to get us to talk about the Wayans brothers on this show. I was going to go with Don't Be a Menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood from 96.
Thank you, Jason, for saving us from having to talk about the Wayans brothers.
I mean, that was on my list too, my long list for 96. So.
Nice. The one that I haven't seen was The Ghost in the Darkness, which I've always thought sounded like it would be pretty damn good. Michael Douglas, Tom Wilkinson, a lion. I got to watch that one of these days.
Yeah, I'm not really familiar with that film, so that would have been interesting to check out. So I am just going to go with my gut on this. And this may be a disastrous idea, but I'm going to take 1989 and a movie that I have seen, Cannibal Women in the Avocado Jungle of Death.
Boy.
I don't know how this is going to go, but this is a favorite of mine.
Are you sure this isn't Dave's pick?
Yeah, right. No, it seems like a movie. I think in part, I'm like, you know what? This seems like something Dave would be into. So let's give him this. And I have not seen this movie since I was a teenager. I remember loving it at the time. It's kind of a self-aware B movie. I remember, again, at the time, thinking that it was more clever than a lot of these other movies in the way it handles these cliches. One time years ago, I participated in this kind of blogathon when people used to do those things for my blog. And it was the White Elephant blogathon where everyone kind of picked a movie to give to someone else. And you basically it was picked out of a hat kind of, and you would write about it. And one year, the movie that I picked for someone else was Cannibal Women in the Avocado Jungle of Death. And I was nervous that this was a terrible idea. And the person who got it wrote a really thoughtful post about it and was thankful. So I'm going to trust them as well. And we'll see how this goes. I take Cannibal Women in the Avocado Jungle of Death.
Starring movie star Bill Maher.
Yes. He's not he's not the main star. It's Shannon Tweed.
Yeah, of all the Shannon Tweed movies to pick, Josh, this is the least tweediest of the bunch, I'd say. But Gene Simmons will be happy that we're covering it if no one else will.
It's a gamble, but I decided to go with the gamble to start.
I like that, Josh. That's an interesting first pick. I did not think that would be your first pick, but hey, whatever. Let's go with it. So my sadness here is one of my top picks was from 1989. It was Roadhouse. I love Roadhouse.
Hell yeah.
I would have been really excited to cover Roadhouse, but down the line, we'll get to the Patrick Swayze, Ben Gazzara classic. Of films I have seen, the movie I haven't seen is Christopher Guest's directorial debut with Kevin Bacon, The Big Picture, a movie about movies. So that would have been a good one too. But hey, let's roll with Cannibal Women.
Yeah, my pick for 89 that I have not seen was Tetsuo the Iron Man, which is a insane Japanese cult classic that I definitely still want to see, and I think is like 65 minutes long. So there's no reason to not see it. So,
and when we were breaking down 89, I remember that was on our list of potential foreign films and cult classics as well.
Yeah, it is certainly a major cult classic.
Absolutely. Speaking of cult classics, I was going to go with The Wizard as a movie that I've seen, the Nintendo movie with Fred Savage. I wonder how that holds up. One of these days I'll find out. The movie I haven't seen is Society, which I know is supposed to be just incredibly disturbing body horror and just super weird. I've got to get around to it one of these days.
Yeah, I have seen Society, and it is an experience to watch. Certainly, it would have been something to talk about. Definitely.
Oh boy.
So we're on to
Dave's
Dave now,
pick.
right?
Yeah. I am going to start and pick something that I haven't seen for mine. I'm going to go with a movie everybody is always so surprised that I haven't watched, and that is Hot Rod. The Akiva Schaffer film with Andy Samberg and based on a Saturday Night Live sketch, I believe, or it's Saturday Night Live adjacent. It's supposed to be hilarious, but I just have never gotten around to it. Are either of you guys fans of it?
I liked Hot Rod. I know Josh, your sister's a big fan, and she always critiques us when we don't pick movies that she likes. So I'm happy to rewatch Hot Rod. I think it's going to be fun, and it'll give me a chance to rewatch Pop Star Never Stop Poppin' again.
Oh, so good. So good.
I have not seen Hot Rod. I think my sister is a big anti-fan of this film, actually. But
what does that mean? She hates it?
Yeah, I think she hates it.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Well, that makes it even better.
And was forced to see it, I think, maybe multiple times when she used to run promotional movie screenings. So I never saw it. I don't know why. What year is this, Dave?
2007. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I'm not sure why I didn't see it, because I certainly was reviewing movies at that time and would have seen most like wide releases, but this kind of lowbrow comedy, despite the movie that I just picked, is usually not my thing. So I'm not sure how I'll feel about it. On the other hand, I do enjoy Andy Samberg in a lot of contexts. So curious to check it out.
I don't think it's lowbrow, as more of like, kind of that MacGruber style, like kind of meta off-putting weirdness than more than lowbrow. But I like it.
The one that I have seen that I would have picked is Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, which, I mean, everybody loves that. Come on.
Yeah,
I don't. So
yeah, of course, except Josh. Yeah.
I'd rather watch this anew than have to rewatch Walk Hard, I think. So, although maybe I would like it the next time around.
Yeah, sure.
For me, 2007, my pick for that year for a movie that I have seen was David Fincher's Zodiac, which is another one that I think we talked about a lot when we did that season about potentially covering. And I'm sure we'll, get around to talking about Fincher again, but we have covered him. We did an episode on Fight Club. So I'm not really broken up about missing Zodiac. And my pick from that year that I have not seen was Rec, which is a Spanish found footage horror movie that is a very influential found footage movie. But on the other hand, found footage movies, I'm okay with getting rid of it. So I mean, I don't mind letting this year go, really.
That's good, Josh. I have a little more ownership in this year because I had two that I really would have been excited about. From the have not seen, it was my suggestion, I remember, from this year for our foreign film. It's Time Crimes, which I know is a Ryan Johnson favorite. That's from Spain, I believe, as well. I would really love to get around to watching that. And then from the movies I have seen, there's a great little movie called Diggers, starring Ken Marino and Lauren Ambrose. And, it takes place on like the small channels or sounds of Long Island about, kind of clam diggers and the fishing community that is, on its last legs. It's a really fun movie, and I would have liked to rewatch that. But that's okay. Life goes on, buddy.
I was between Walk Hard and Diggers for my have seen pick. So, yeah.
That's great. I think we can all agree. Wow, on that film and how underrated it is. Definitely a good one.
Nice. So that's maybe something we can look at in a different retrospective, or just watch as friends. We could come over to someone's house, huddle,
eat some clams. Yeah.
So with round one done, Josh, we have Trees Lounge, 1996, Cannibal Women in the Avocado Jungle of Death, 1989, and Hot Rod off the board from 2007. Josh, you are the first pick in this next round.
Oh, is that how this goes? Okay.
Yeah, we're giving everyone a first pick, and everyone a second pick and everyone a third pick.
Okay, this is so complicated.
It's really not, Josh. I made it very clear.
I trust that you know what you're talking about. So, all right, I'm kind of stalling here because I'm trying to decide how I want to approach this for my next one, and I want to make sure that we look back into film history, which is always important to me on this podcast. So I'm gonna take myself a little further back for my next pick, and I'm going to go with Dario Argento's Deep Red from 1975 as a movie that I have not seen. And I have seen other Dario Argento movies, including recently, and Giallo films, but I feel like this is an area of cinema that we have, again, probably referenced and thought about covering, but haven't. But this is such a huge area of horror cinema, and Argento is such a major figure that I feel like it's an important thing for us to get to. And I'd like to see it because it is his most notable film. So I'm going to take A Deep Red from 1975.
I would have thought Suspiria is his most notable film.
Well, that may be true. I mean, this is whatever year Suspiria is from. I think it's not a year that we've
covered. I think it is. It's 77, I think.
Okay.
But that's cool. I haven't seen this one. I've seen Suspiria. And Josh, we have definitely talked about Giallo with like Cemetery Man. And yeah, I'm more Argento. I'm, for obviously seen Suspiria, but I haven't seen many of his other pieces. So cool pick, buddy.
Thank you. Yeah, I was sort of like unsure of myself, but I'm gonna commit to that. And I think Cemetery Man is very different from like the traditional Giallo.
Right.
So, but that's true. Michel Soavi, who directed that, is an important figure in Giallo films. And I have seen Suspiria as well. I'm actually not as crazy about Suspiria, so I'm curious to check this one out. My pick from 1975 for a movie that I have seen was Night Moves with Gene Hackman, which is, a great film, a classic, I believe, that we watched in our film club with Tony Macklin. And, we've talked about Gene Hackman a bunch, and Gene Hackman is great, but I don't know. I would be happy to revisit it sometime. Maybe we will again, because it's certainly a notable film.
I've seen Night Moves. I didn't love it as much as a lot of other people. I do love Hackman in the 70s, and a very risque performance from a young Melanie Griffith in that film. But I would like to see that movie again at some point in time. Hackman, just firing on all cylinders there. For me, 1975, the movie that I have seen was going to be Shampoo, the Hal Ashby movie, which we still haven't covered Hal Ashby, which is shame on us, Josh. Shame on us. A film I haven't seen from 1975 is The Sunshine Boys, which I believe George Burns won the Oscar for that year. So that would have been a fun one. Neil Simon, but we're going a completely opposite direction with that.
Yeah, I feel like we've talked about Neil Simon at least once and maybe a couple times. I think.
Goodbye Girl? Probably.
Yeah, definitely Goodbye Girl. I thought maybe another time, maybe not, but I'm okay with skipping Neil Simon, really. I've never seen Sunshine Boys, nor have I seen Shampoo. That I would be curious to check out, because you're right, Hal Ashby, important figure that we should get to talking about eventually.
My haven't seen from 1975 was Night Moves. So all of us talking about that one there. The one that I have seen is a movie that I watched specifically because it was my alternate pick for the 1975 season, A Boy and His Dog, which takes place in the post-apocalyptic future of 2024 with Don Johnson and his talking dog in this weird Mad Max-like wasteland. It's fucking weird.
That is a crazy movie, and like one of the most like misogynistic movies. I think I was not prepared for how woman-hating that movie is, but certainly a worthy topic of discussion. That movie.
Not just that, we've just finished our recording our episode on The Wild Bunch. One of the stars of The Wild Bunch wrote and directed that film.
Yeah, L.Q. Jones. Yeah, he's had a weird career, so that's certainly something that would be a worthy discussion at some point later on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's Dave's pick.
Oh boy! Oh, Josh is gonna hate me.
Okay.
That makes me love you even more.
Well, again, I'm thinking of figures that we have to get to that we haven't really talked about yet on the show. And I am going to 2003 for what I will say is Michael Bay's best movie, Bad Boys 2.
Oh my God.
Dave,
I think I
take
might have
it
rated
back.
that movie half a star on Letterboxd.
I don't love you anymore, Dave.
Thank you, Jason.
So yeah, Jason was expecting you to pick like a Wayans Brothers or some sort of like silly comedy,
Uh-huh.
and now you're isn't it? Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't that also like a 2.5 hour Michael Bay movie?
It might be, but it's 2.5 hours of perfection.
Oh,
This is 2003, is that right?
Yes, 2003.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, I think we're united in our hatred of you for this pick.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for. Although, to be fair, you might have hated my haven't seen pick as well, Master and Commander.
No, that would have been so much better.
That movie has like this weird, like giant following that it's built up after it flopped at the box office. So that
I don't know how I never saw it, but that would have been my haven't seen. But after having rewatched the Bad Boys movies for the recent one, I was just so in love with it. I was like, if I get a chance, I'm going to make you guys watch it.
I think I've seen it. I do know that is the most well-regarded one. So, hey, I mean,
it's the favorite piece of shit among the pieces of shit.
Hell yeah.
And, hey, we haven't covered Michael Bay.
That's true.
To me, the sad thing is I'm going to have to rewatch the first Bad Boys now as well. So.
I am going on record right now. I will not do that. I will not subject myself to that again.
That's fair.
Josh, what were you going to pick if you had 2003?
Oh man, anything to avoid Bad Boys. So my have seen pick is actually a movie that I find really fascinating, and I think Jason, this might have been on your list as well. Is Michael Winterbottom's Code 46, which I think is a super underrated sci-fi movie, and is part of this great subgenre where it's like a sci-fi romance, and it uses these high concepts to tell this really affecting love story with Tim Robbins and Samantha Morton, and a movie that I watched again a few years ago to write about. And I just think, again, is super underrated. And Michael Winterbottom is a fascinating director, one of these guys who's worked in like every possible genre and, really does a great job of distilling what's fascinating about sci-fi. So that's a movie that maybe we'll get to talk about at some point in the future. My 2003 pick for a movie that I have seen, I almost picked this with my last one, and now I wish I had, so I could have blocked Dave from picking Bad Boys, and that's Bong Joon-ho's Memories of Murder, which I believe we talked about as a possible foreign film pick that year.
Michael Bay or Bong Joon-ho.
Come on. What is the choice there? So I really regret not having strategically placed that. If I had realized, what I should have done is looked at David, looked at your list and found all of those things that I wanted to block, but I didn't think of doing that. So we're out Memories of Murder, and instead we get Bad Boys 2.
Oh, so sad because I haven't seen that. Code 46 was my pick for movies I haven't seen in 2003, Josh, which would have been great, and Memories of Murder would have been great. My pick for movies I have seen was In America, a film I love about Irish immigrants. Neil Jordan, correct, Josh?
Yeah. I feel like you bring this movie up all the time.
Yeah, so we could have had a lot of good movies here, but we don't.
No, we're gonna have quite the combative discussion, I'm sure, on Bad Boys when we get to it.
All right. So it's my pick. And Josh, we don't have a documentary off the board yet. So I'm going to mix it up. I'm going to go to documentary here. You guys know I love punk music. You know I love The Clash. 1977's Punks in London. I have no idea if it's a good documentary. I know I'll love the music. So I'm going with Punks in London, a movie I haven't seen.
Right.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know anything about that. And I think, as we've said, I get kind of bored with the music documentaries, but I'm curious to see how that one goes.
Yeah, I figured, this is a chance for us to really explore here and do something different. So I did have two music documentaries on my list. Another one was, also dealing with punk music, but I feel like this is the one I want to see most because I love The Clash so much. So I'm going to go there. So
all right.
We'll see. Could be good, could be terrible. Who knows? So anyway, from 1977, that is a movie I haven't seen. The movie I have seen, which I think we talk about a lot and might have been on other lists, so good, Sorcerer, William Friedkin, just an amazing movie. So Roy Scheider, the remake of Wages of Fear which we talked about in 1953. Sorcerer is an amazing movie. Highly recommend it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Source. It wasn't on my list here, but it is a great movie. And we did talk about it, of course, because we did an episode on The Wages of Fear in our 1953 season. My 1977 pick for a movie that I have seen is Between the Lines, Joan Micklin Silver's film about the staff of an alt weekly newspaper, which has a sort of personal connection to me that I think I actually watched while we were doing our 1977 season, even though we didn't talk about it. And I just really enjoyed it. And of course, we've talked about Marissa Silver, Joan Micklin Silver's daughter, but we have not talked about her. So that would have been an interesting film to cover. And my pick for that year for a movie that I've not seen is a movie that I think, Jason, that you told me about from that Quentin Tarantino book that you've been reading, which is Rolling Thunder. And it sounded fascinating. So I'd love to check that out.
Yeah, Rolling Thunder is a real grindhouse movie. Obviously, he loves it so much he named his kind of distribution company after it. That book's good. I finished it, Josh.
So. All right. It seems like it keeps coming up, though, and as it should. That's fair. So,
and Between the Lines is definitely on my short list of movies to watch as well.
Yeah, it's one of those movies that is just kind of like a hangout movie. You know, it doesn't have a lot of plot structure, but the characters are just so enjoyable to watch, and it's such a perfect snapshot of that world. I really enjoy it.
The 1977 movie that I have seen that I was going to pick is House, the Japanese cult horror comedy, which I didn't really like when I watched it, and I feel like I owe it a rewatch because it just seems like something that I would love, and I just didn't get into it. And then the one that I haven't seen just sounds so much like a movie I would love. It's called The Day of the Animals, about all these animals kind of going crazy, and it just sounds totally up my alley. One of these days I got to get to that.
Yeah, I feel the same way that you do about House, where it's such a cult classic, and I watched it and I was like, I just don't understand what the hell this even is, and not in a fun way. But I'd be interested in, giving it another shot and seeing how I feel about it then.
Yeah.
So we're in the final round of our draft here, although I feel like we should just pick every single year and make this a 20 episode season, Josh.
Yeah.
Dave, you are up first in the last round.
Oh boy, what should I pick? So many other things. I'm not gonna drive you guys nuts with my last pick.
You can do whatever you want. It's your pick.
I am gonna go with. You know what? Maybe I am gonna drive you guys nuts. No, you know what? I'm gonna go with Bad Lieutenant. For a movie I haven't seen in like 30 years or something. Or how many years ago was that? 1992. So however many years that is, and I've always wanted to revisit it. So seems like a good time to finally do that.
I like this pick. I've actually never seen Bad Lieutenant. I've seen the weird Werner Herzog pseudo remake with Nicolas Cage.
I'm going to watch both.
Yeah,
I'm going to watch both for sure.
I've not seen. I tend to not like Abel Ferrara, but this is probably his best known film or most well regarded film. So I'm glad to have a reason to check it out.
I definitely want to watch it too. Dave, what was your other pick from 92?
So the one that I have not seen, although I wondered if maybe I've rented it and just don't remember it back in the day, but Dr. Giggles.
I have not seen that. And I think I almost watched that like a few weeks ago, just randomly, because I had read someone like tweeting about it. And it seems like a fun, like ridiculous slasher movie. So yeah. I would have been up for that.
Josh, for 1992, it pains me to say that Glengarry Glen Ross was the one that I had seen, which I would have loved to revisit. I love that movie. It's one of my favorite movies. So that would have been great. For 1992, a movie I haven't seen, highly regarded, always wanted to see it, Sneakers.
Yeah, I haven't seen that either. And that's another, I agree with you. I feel like that people love that movie. It has such this like warm reputation. It's like a comfort movie for a lot of people. So I would have been curious to see that. I don't, as much as I would not want to watch Glengarry Glen Ross again, I feel like it would have been interesting to have a debate about David Mamet, who I dislike so strongly. But maybe we'll get to that eventually. My 1992 pick for a movie that I have not seen was Deep Cover, which I feel like is a movie that's gotten a lot of attention recently. I must have been re-released on Blu-ray, or I believe it was on Criterion for a while, and just sounds like a really fascinating thriller. So I would have been curious to check that out. And my pick for a movie that I have seen was Bram Stoker's Dracula, the Francis Ford Coppola film. And we have talked about Coppola, and so I think it's fine to kind of let him slide. But I watched this relatively recently for an article, and I just found it so fascinating. And I feel like it's become underrated. Coppola is known for all these big boondoggles, and I think that has the reputation of being one of them. But it's actually a really good movie. So it would have been cool to talk
I think
about.
it's been reassessed and is highly regarded now as well.
Yeah,
as it
absolutely.
should be. Yeah.
And Deep Cover, great rap soundtrack, by the way.
All right. I'll definitely want to watch that at some point.
So with my last pick, I'm stuck between picking a movie I have seen or I haven't seen. What do you guys recommend?
Oh, we're going to have to give you some advice.
Well, I'm asking your opinion. Should I
All
go
right.
with
Well,
what I have seen?
I feel like there is at least one notable instance of you picking a movie that you haven't seen and it being a disaster. So I'm going to vote for you taking one that you have seen, but I'm good either way.
Yeah, let's go with have seen, Jason.
Okay, 1987, Ernest Goes to Camp. Off the board.
Oh yeah.
I mean, how have we gone 20 seasons without talking about Ernest P. Worrell?
I think very easily how we've done that.
I mean, this guy was a franchise unto himself. I don't know how it happened. He was amazing. Jim Varney, Ernest Goes to Camp. I probably haven't seen it since I was a kid, but I mean, dude, I'm going to rewatch this. Ernest Saves Christmas. This is going to be just great. From the films I haven't seen, 1987, it would have been Light of Day, the Paul Schrader film, which features an original Bruce Springsteen song. So that my two reasons for picking it were, one, we haven't talked about Paul Schrader yet, and two, it has a Bruce Springsteen song in it. So.
I'm surprised there isn't a like Bruce Springsteen concert movie or something that you could have.
I mean, I probably could have, but that's okay. So.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Although I probably would have enjoyed that more than watching an Ernest movie.
I don't think we're ever going to get another chance to really do Ernest, so that's.
And it's the right one to do. You got to do that first, big hit. So.
And also, Josh, now this gives me a movie from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, so I'm really spreading the love around.
Good, yeah. I think that's good. That's what I was kind of trying to make happen there as well. So from 1987, my pick for a movie that I haven't seen is another one that I feel like we had a long back and forth about at the time about maybe doing an episode on, which is Robert Townsend's Hollywood Shuffle. And I certainly would still like to see that as a very notable.
We got to talk about that movie at some point. Important independent film.
Major showbiz satire. I do want to watch. My pick for that year for something that I have seen also I think came up as a possibility for us, and it's Clive Barker's Hellraiser, which is a fun, influential horror movie, and I like Clive Barker a lot. I actually like Hellraiser 2 better, so I'm okay with skipping that. But it's always good for us to get more horror in there, so that would have been cool.
Well, Josh, you will be horrified with Ernest.
I'm sure that I will. Although I will say, as a kid, I definitely enjoyed the Ernest movie. So maybe I will feel some nostalgia for this. We'll see.
Nice. Yeah, my have seen was also Hellraiser. I love that movie, and I thought it would have been a good one. And then the one that I haven't seen, I wouldn't have picked because I don't really need to watch it, but the Squeeze with Michael Keaton. I just have always thought that the poster is just one of the worst things I've ever seen, and so that's why I put it on my list.
Sure, that's a reason. Why not? Why not take that reason?
Yeah, morbid curiosity.
So I guess I am the last one here, and I'm looking at this list, and there's so many. I'm like, oh, I can't believe I'm going to miss this one and this one and this one and this one. But that's how it goes.
Well, so I mean, look, if you guys want to each do one extra, I'm all for expanding it more.
Well, I think we need to keep this contained, but we will do our audience choice year picks after this. But I'm gonna take something older and a foreign film from Jason's favorite year and go with The Earrings of Madame de from 1953, Max Ophuls, and a movie that I have not seen. Is a major cinematic landmark. I believe probably, Jason, it's on the Sight and Sound list, so you can cross that off. And one that I want to say maybe I was supposed to watch for a film class in college and didn't get to. So this will be a good way for me to make up for that. So, less ridiculous than some of our other picks, but I feel like we got to go with something serious.
I mean, I'm happy to go back, but man, 1953, what a terrible year for films. I was hoping you would have picked something from 39 or something, because that was a great one.
I was kind of back and forth between those two, so we'll see if I made the right choice. I feel like this is a movie that maybe you will appreciate. I hope we'll find out.
And what was your pick of things that you had seen from 1950?
So my 53 pick of a movie that I have seen was Niagara with Marilyn Monroe, which is a great film noir. And I know we talked about Marilyn Monroe that year already with Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, which Jason, you did not care for at all. I think Marilyn Monroe is super underrated, and it's a very different kind of movie than Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. But you know, we've kind of talked about her, so went in a different direction on that.
For me, 1953, the movie I had seen was Shane, the classic Western, which I haven't seen since probably high school, but one of the most renowned Westerns that there is. The movie I haven't seen, speaking of Westerns, we did our Wild Bunch episode with our friend William Holden. That was the Western. This is not a Western, but the movie I hadn't seen is the movie he won his Oscar for Best Actor for, which was Stalag 17.
Yeah, that's a great movie. I saw that in the theater at the TCM Fest. That was, and actually, I think I saw Shane at TCM Fest also, potentially. Come back, Shane. That's all I remember from that. So, you know, I'm okay letting those ones go. But Stalag 17 is great, Jason. And maybe if you watch it, you would have a better appreciation of the year 1953. You know, we'll see.
The 53 movie that I have seen, although it's kind of a might have seen, I don't remember. I probably saw it back in high school or something. The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. You know, I loved a lot of those like kind of classic monster movies, so it's possible, but I didn't really remember. And then the one that I haven't seen, horror comedy with Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis, Scared Stiff. Sounds like something that I might have liked.
Yeah, it sounds like it is something that you might have liked. So
you can't knock Dave, Josh, after you're picking 1953, the worst year in film history.
I think it's not the worst year in film history, and I think there's a good chance you'll like this movie if you go in with an open mind.
I will go in with an open mind, as I do for all of them, as you should do for Bad Boys 2. Of course.
Yeah. Well, yes, I feel like my mind has already been closed to Bad Boys 2 because I've seen it already. So we'll see if I can find something to appreciate there. I don't know. So should we run down the list of what we picked?
Sure. From 1996, we have Trees Lounge. From 1989, we have Cannibal Women in the Avocado Jungle of Death. From 2007, we have Hot Rod. From 1975, we have Deep Red. From 2003, it's Bad Boys 2. From 1977, Punks in London. From 1992, we have Bad Lieutenant. From 1987, it's Ernest Goes to Camp. And from 1953, the Earrings of Madame de.
So that is quite a lineup of films. I feel like it's interesting because normally when we're planning these seasons, we have a very long process of back and forth and arguing about, do we want this one or do we want this one? And it feels like we've really refined it by the end of our picking process. And this is just a seat of the pants craziness.
I kind of love it. And it makes me want to give us each, like, we should have done 2 that we have seen, 2 that we haven't seen, so we equalize it.
Well, I think we've got plenty here. And what we are going to do now, though, is do one more round of picks for just years. And the idea here is that we will do, as we always do, an audience choice episode. And we're going to give you, the audience, a choice of 3 different years. And once we get to the year that you picked, then we will each offer up one of our picks from that year for the audience to choose from. So this is kind of a strategic thing as well. What movies do you have from those years? Is the audience likely to pick it? So Jason, how would this work now with the rounds? Who would pick?
Well, I mean, you guys can just pick it. I mean, one other thing we could do is, like, I like your idea, Josh, that we've all talked about. The other thing we could do is, like, say you pick the year and that's the year they vote on. You can just pick one of your picks from that year if that's your year that you pick.
Well, I mean, I kind of like getting the audience to choose the movies too. So I don't know. We can not
that's
put this
fine
in the episode, but
no, that's good to talk about.
No. I mean, I think just, you know, we should have a sense of what we're doing here so we can just say
cool.
that.
Well, why don't you pick a year and then Dave, you pick a year and then I'll just take the last one and we'll go from there.
All right. Well, I mean, Jason, since you mentioned 1939 as like a great year, an awesome year even, and it is known often as the greatest year in cinema history. And I do like us being able to look back. I don't know if the audience will go for it, but I'm going to take 1939 as my audience choice here.
And that was on my short list for that too, just because it would have given me an excuse to watch something else from 39 that I haven't seen.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how that goes. Dave, what year are you going to take?
I'm going to go with 1980, the year I was born. Let's do that.
All right. We'll do that. A very vast span of time between those two. Jason,
yeah. Cool.
1980
taking? Is a good one. I was going to pick 84, but I think we'll just mix it up and I'll go 99, the other great year that's often considered the greatest movie year. So that gives us a nice variety here.
Yeah, I think this will definitely give the audience clear differences in these choices and what they're going to prefer to hear from us. So that is quite the lineup that we have coming up for this season. And we are doing a couple other things related to this. As always, we are going to have a bonus episode at the end of the season that will be exclusive to our Patreon subscribers for a period of time. And we are going to take a year that actually none of us picked, even though it was possible that we could, and that is 1967. And the reason is because the film that we're going to talk about from that year, The Samurai, is the only one that we all had on our initial short list. So obviously a movie that we all were interested in talking about. So we figured we might as well take that consensus pick and have that as our bonus. So that's something to look forward to at the end of the season. And another thing that we love doing, and Jason especially loves doing, is episodes about holiday movies. And that is another thing we're going to get to. Jason, you are diligently working at figuring out some holiday movies from years that we haven't picked for the draft that we'll cover at holiday time.
Oh, we're doing it. We're going to holiday it up. It's going to be great. Josh, the reason we picked The Samurai, I think, did you mention that we all had it on our list? I think you did.
Yes.
I'm the only one who's seen it. Jean-Pierre Melville's classic. That's so highly influential. So I'm happy to revisit it, and I'm happy for you guys to see it for the first time.
Yeah, it's something that I've wanted to see, and I've seen other Jean-Pierre Melville films, and this is such an influential movie that I think it'll be fascinating for us to talk about. So that's a lot to look forward to this season. I think it's going to be fun for us mixing things up in this crazy way. So tune in for the opening of the season, which will feature Trees Lounge from 1996. And if you have thoughts on what we picked, what we didn't pick, if this was a crazy idea for us to do, you can get at us online and on social media.
You know where to find us, guys. We're at awesomemovieyear.com, Awesome Movie Year on Facebook and Instagram, Awesome Movie Pod on Garbage Pail. I'm Jason Harris Comedy, or Jay Harris Comedy, and all the things. Of course, look out for Eat This Comedy and follow me on Letterboxd at Go for Jason.
You can find some old stuff from me at joshbellhateseverything.com. I am at Josh Bell Hates Everything on Facebook, at Signal Bleed on the unfortunate X Twitter platform, as well as on Blue Sky and on Letterboxd. And if you're on Letterboxd and you watch any of the movies that we talk about on the show, tag your review with Awesome Movie Year, especially once you watch Ernest Goes to Camp. We would love to hear what you think about any of the movies we talk about on this show. You can listen to our producer, David Rosen's awesome podcast, Piecing It Together.
Check out Piecing It Together wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on social media at Piecing Pod, and join our Facebook group, Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces, where I'm sure we'll be talking about a lot of these great picks from this upcoming season.
And of course, we always get audience choice votes in that group. So that's a great way to give us feedback on that. So tune in next time for Trees Lounge. And thanks for listening.
Wait, I have one more thing to add, Josh.
Oh.
I have one more little thing to add. I'm looking over these picks here, and I feel like I've let down our original season of 1994. I'd like to switch 99 to 94, if that's okay with you guys, for the audience choice as my pick.
Jason, really just messing with everything here. All right, we will allow you to call an audible. That's a sports thing too.
Wow.
Nice.
Good job,
Yes.
Josh.
Did it.
Wow.
So
Last second trade under the deadline. I've traded away the rights of 1999 for the rights of 1994 and a year to be named later.
Can I switch 80 to 84? I'm just kidding.
Sure.
No, come on. This is chaos. This is too much chaos. We're locked in. We're set. It's done. Trees Lounge is coming up next.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to Awesome Movie Year.
Thank you for listening to Awesome Movie Year. Make sure to follow Awesome Movie Year on Facebook, at Awesome Movie Pod on Twitter, and at Awesome Movie Year on Instagram. And if you like the show, review us and rate us with 5 stars on Apple Podcasts.
An All Points West production, produced by David Rosen in Las Vegas.